When Spanx started, I got to set the stage a little bit for you. There were no Blackberries. No one had ever heard of an iPhone or an iPod before. I mean, the Kardashians were in like the 5th grade. And MapQuest was just getting started, so half the time I was on the computer in the hotel that I was staying at and trying to MapQuest my next location, and it was a really crazy time. As I'm driving all around, I'm thinking to myself, actually, I remember this one time in Chicago. I had spent so much time alone on the road. I did an event at the Neiman Marcus outside of Evanston, I believe it was, in Oak Brook or Northbrook, and I spent the whole day promoting lifting up my pant leg and turning and shaking my butt for everyone in the entrance. And that's, I'd been setting up these tables and moving them farther and farther out of the hosiery department to the point where they were in the entrance of Neiman Marcus. I mean, people would walk in, I go, "Hi, I'm Sarah." And I would flash them my butt. And, I was trying everything. I put donuts on the table. I was like, "Have a donut and some Spanx."
I went through some tough times. After I left the Oprah show, I made a conscious decision that I did not want to be sitting on TV with the Oprah show and y'all saying, "She should have left that show. That show was really good 2 years ago." I made a conscious decision that when I felt I had said all that I could say and the audience had heard it, that I would move on. And that I would not spend my life regretting or trying to hold on to what used to be or hold on to what I had. So I dreamed this dream of starting a network. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. It was a struggle because honest to goodness, I did not know what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out. I thought that the Oprah show audience would follow us to OWN, and then I realized y'all didn't have cable. And if you had cable, you did not have the OWN package. So it took me a minute. And unlike most people who you get to have your mistakes in private, something doesn't go right in your life, you get to sulk about it in private. If I make a mistake, it's on the CNN crawl or the CNN news. So when I was in the climb and there were so many wonderful owners, I see Churl Action Jackson here. There were so many wonderful owners, people who said, "Oh, we're gonna stand with you. We're gonna stand by you." Thank you, Roland Martin. There were so many people who said, "Listen, we believe that this can happen." So I dreamed the dream along with Tyler Perry, who was my friend, who came to me and said, Tyler said, "I'm gonna help you out," because Tyler can go home and write a script and direct it, produce it, and shoot it, and do it for less money than anybody in Hollywood. So we started with the foundation of have and have nots. If loving you is wrong, love thy neighbor, Mama Hattie. And then I started to dream another dream about scripted television, because in the beginning I was told you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it, didn't have enough money to do it. And I dreamed the dream. I read Proverbs 11:28 that says, "Those who trust in their riches will fall, but the righteous will rise and thrive like a green leaf."
Is the secret to your success to be the CEO of 2 companies at the same time?
No. I think it's...
Because look at the correlation.
Yeah.
Struggling companies, everything's in the craft can in December 2008. So let's take on a new CEO gig.
Yeah.
And same for Steve, coming back to Apple. Right?
No, definitely it was not my intention to be CEO of 2 companies. There's certain things that I kind of wanted to, I thought were important to happen, and I thought it was important that that an electric vehicle happened, that there was a success in the electric vehicle arena, because the incumbent companies were convinced that it was not possible to create an electric car that looked good, had a good range performance and so forth, and that even if you did make such a car, it would not sell, because people had this love of gasoline. So we had to show that it was possible to create a compelling electric car long range, good looking, you know, all those things. That was a Tesla Roadster. And if you created, if you made such a thing, people would buy it.
When you first launched, in the very beginning, the features were sort of profile with like a profile photo and your name and who you are. And also you included things like what house you lived in, what dorm you lived in, and what courses you were taking. Do you think it would have worked without that? Would it have been enough just to have profiles?
You know, it's a really interesting question. And we certainly since then have evolved and wanted to make a more general service, so we've dropped some of those things. But I remember there's this early debate that Dustin and I had where we had to do some manual work for every school that we released Facebook at. And in order to do that, we basically went through and we parsed the course catalogs of the schools to make sure that the data was clean. And I remember having this debate where Dustin was like, we could just expand so much faster, or it would just be easier. I mean, we were bound by server capacity, but it would be easier to launch new schools if we didn't have to have course catalogs for each school. And we just had this really long debate about what quality meant for us and the community that we wanted to establish and the culture of it. And you know, in retrospect, you know, maybe it wouldn't have had a huge difference on how things played out, but it definitely kind of set this tone where there's a lot of kind of clean data on Facebook. You can rely on it. It feels like a college-specific thing, which was valuable early on for setting the culture, even though obviously since then we've grown beyond that. And you know, I mean, I think you guys in the projects that you work on, you're going to have a lot of similar questions, right? I mean, there's the famous 80-20 rule where, you know, you get 80% of the benefit by doing 20% of the work, but you can't just 80-20 everything, right? I mean, there have to be certain things that you just are the best at, right? And that you go way further than anyone else at to establish this kind of quality bar and have your product be the best thing that's out there. So, you know, whether we had to do that one or had to do something, we had to do, I think, enough of those things or else we just wouldn't have been the best service out there.